Hello and welcome to haQ attaQ. My name is Jakob, I'm your host and you're watching a haQ attaQ episode. This is part 3 of my KORG Gadget drum and bass production tricks series. If you haven't watched part 1 in where I'm going through the drum section or part 2 where I'm going through the bass section, then I suggest you go watch those two first and then come back to this one. Part 3 leads. And what's making the leads in this track are two KORG gadgets, and they're designed to work together with the bass to create a dynamic feel. So let's have a quick listen. Right, so let's dig into what is making this sound like it does. And to do that, let's begin by soloing out the leads. So you can clearly hear that there aren't that much bass in the bottom. Because as I said in the beginning, I've designed these leads to work with the bass. Yes, so the KORG gadgets both have an electro stab. It's a factory preset that I've tweaked just a little bit, but the main part of what I've done with this lead actually comes down to what's inside the insert effect slot. And we're gonna begin by listening to the first KORG gadget. So let's make sure only that one can be heard. You can clearly hear that a lot of things are happening when I'm turning on and off the equalizer. With the equalizer on, the lead sounds more clear and less muddy. So let's go into the equalizer and check it out. Now, if we start by looking at the lower register here, you could expect me to cut a lot of the bass, but I haven't. I've actually amplified a bit of it. And if we look at the frequency, it's 493 Hz. And I've given it a little top about 2.8 decibels. And if we look at the mid here, I've done quite a bit. I've amplified 8.7 decibels, around 1921 Hz. And it's got a sharp Q point around 6.9. Now moving up to the high frequencies, I was careful not to amplify too much of the higher frequencies because I was designing this part of the lead to work with another KORG gadget. And the main purpose of this one was to take over where this part of the lead ended in the frequency spectrum. So I've just gained about 4.9 decibels, around 2000 Hz. So I've basically made sure that this part of the lead has its mids right up there, but leaving space in the highs for the next lead to fill up the rest of it. So let's make sure that the next KORG gadget is soloed, and let's have a listen to that one. And let's go into the FX section, enter the equalizer, and I'll A/B this for you. As you can hear, when I turn off the equalizer, we get a lot of mids and some plucky, mid-bassy sounds. And that's exactly what we do not want in this top high frequency lead. So when looking at the equalizer here, you could expect me to cut a lot in the mid-range, but I haven't. What I've actually done is I've used the mid-range to enhance a bit of the top high mids, amplified to 1.4 decibels. However, in the low range, I've cut quite a bit. Low shelving it down from 603 Hz down to minus 15 decibels. leaving all of the space for the mids, for the first Wolfsburg gadget, and for the bass to pick up. Now the high frequencies, I've given it a little bit of an edge. 4.5 decibels amplification, around 8700 Hz. So just the high ones. And still leaving space for stuff like hi-hats, arpeggios, and other things that I'm using later on in the track. Now both these Wolfsburg gadgets are being processed with sidechain compression, and they've got the same settings, and they're both listening to the first London track. It's basically just a reference signal for the sidechain to listen to, so the audio from these two gadgets gets compressed when the bass drum hits. If you want to know why I'm not just using the main drum track as a reference for the sidechain to listen to, then I suggest you go and check my KORG Gadget sidechain compression tutorial, in where I'm explaining exactly what sidechain compression is, how to use it, how to set it up, and why I'm using a singular muted gadget with only the bass drums in it as a reference. Now jumping further out, we can see that I'm using a reverb for the high part of this lead, and the reason why I'm only using a reverb for this one is because the first one contains just a bit too much mid, and I don't want to add more muddiness to all of the mids already in there. However, high brittle frequencies are perfect in drum and bass tracks to give some space with a reverb. Makes for a really nice tail for the lead sounds. So this is basically like layering. That's what I've done here. One gadget for the mid parts and one gadget for the high parts. It's a nice strategy to have to work in this manner, because it also gives you a lot of control over the frequencies inside your tracks. So when you're mixing, you know exactly what lever to pull if there's something in the frequency spectrum that just pops out a bit too much. So that's basically it for the lead part. In the next part of this KORG Gadget drum and bass production trick series, we're gonna check out the arpeggio and pads. Thank you so much for watching. All comments and ratings are very much appreciated. I've also got a Patreon page, so if you want to support me in that way, then you can see the address right here, and you can also find it down in the description, together with an app link for KORG Gadget. It truly is a remarkable tool for producing music. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.